guys, welcome back. It's the third match in round one of Book It. It's been an absolute barn burner so far. If you haven't seen the last two matches, I implore you to go and check them out before you see this one, as I will be spoiling the results for them. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You've had your time. Obviously, we've seen Strack beat Scott McLeod in an epic opening match, and then David versus Ryan. Dave managed to sneak out the win there. A lot of arguments over semantics got pretty intense, but the winner of this match today will be facing David Hockney, and you should be facing up to the fact that the best thing that you can do is check out the rest of ESSR's content. Go over to our feeds on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you get your podcast. Check out ESSR Central. It's our new flagship show. That is, we run down the week that was in wrestling. That's available on our Thursday. The feature show, where we look at the stuff, the historical, the contemporary, all of it, different topics on wrestling. That comes out on a Tuesday. Saturday Draft Live, Eats Meets West, all these things. And you can also check out the rest of the stuff on this YouTube channel. Don't forget about Quiz Showdown. Don't forget about the conspiracy theory. We've got so much going on at ESSR for you to have a look at, but we're here for one specific reason. So without further ado, let me introduce you to our competitors today. Introducing first, he is 1/3 of the hosts of Saturday Draft Live. He is a former co-host of the Raw Report. He is the longest reigning ESSR 365 champion in history, and at the time of recording, he is a former one-time ESSR champion. I do that every single show. I'll do it again. He's a former one-time ESSR champion. Please welcome the journeyman, Jack Graham, to the studio here, joining me, walking in.
Hello.
To Robbie Williams.
Yes.
He is absolutely loving life right now. Championship belt at the hat.
I don't want to rock DJ, but I will certainly keep you up all night with this. Let me tell you that for free, old boy.
Jack, you're here to have a fun time.
Of course.
And you seem pretty laid back about this. Obviously, we'll talk about the history between you and your opponent today in a wee bit. But you host a podcast, the Big Picture Podcast, where it's there's similar elements that could cross over here. Does that give you confidence for today that you have that skill set to get it done?
One would assume that this would play right into my playing field, given that I'm the host of the Big Picture Podcast and we pitch things on a regular basis. But as of time of recording, I have not won a single episode yet. So take that as you will. But when it comes to a competitor, I see no reason why I can't win this today.
Fair enough, man. Fair enough. Well, we need to have a look at the man you will be facing. Introducing second. He is a cornerstone of the Eat, Sleep, Suplex, Retweet podcast. At time of recording, he is a former three-time ESSR champion. Oh my God, why did I add in that extra S? I'll say it again. A former three-time ESSR champion. He is a Quiz Showdown champion. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the company man, Ross McLeod, to the studio. He is ready to get it. Ross, it's a pleasure to have you here. I've said it to other guys. You've competed in everything the ESSR has. The guy who runs the sweeps, you've competed in quizzes, you've won quizzes, you've competed in debating chambers, you've won debating chambers. Quiz Showdown, conquered that as well. Is this just another notch in the belt for Ross McLeod?
I mean, people might be wondering why I chose the Rock's theme song, and it's quite simply just to raise the eyebrow at the absolute state of Jack Graham as he stoated in to his Robbie Williams. I've personally always thought he's a poor man's Gary Barlow, but that's neither here nor there. So just another notch in the belt, another notch on the Ingram bedpost, and looking forward to slapping the bastard down.
Well, guys, listen, you guys used to host a show together. It was known as the Raw Report. You would review Monday Night Raw. There's been a lot of talk in the lead up to this match today about the beef between you two here. Ross, can you please tell me your feelings about Jack Graham and why you think that you will come out on top today?
I don't have any feelings for Jack Graham. It's simply it's been from one side. It's it's the noisy neighbours, if you will. He's quite clearly the Man City of this podcast. He's ran his mouth, him and Scott and David. I mean, had you listened to Saturday Draft Live, not this past week when I was on, and it was good, the week before, you wouldn't have listened, obviously, because I wasn't there. You would have thought there was no need for a first round, given that Scott, David and Jack, when they were all, circle jerking each other, apparently were already through. And yet we've seen Scott fall to Strack, arrogance, pride that goes before the fall. David Hockney, I mean, let's be honest, at time of recording, we are the day after Rangers Celtic. Ryan Gallagher was not in a sound state of mind. Ryan Gallagher was 90% alcohol. So, I mean, let's see how it goes. I'm not getting arrogant. I'm not getting big-headed. I'm just letting Jack know that I'm better than him in every way. I'm going to slap him in.
Jack, you've said a lot about the Raw report, and the vacation habits of Ross McLeod are well known around the podcast. Why do you think they are going to come out on top today?
I think he said it himself on Saturday Draft Live. That he's just kind of disregarded this tournament as it is. He was like, oh, I'll just make my card 2 before. There's no care, never any care about this man. He does nothing ever since this restructure. Where's his place? He's on Central every so often. He might host a feature show here and there, but he's got nothing concrete. Nobody ever wants to come to this man for anything. Starting arguing with anyone for anyone. Folk will just mute chats and do what I mean. He's a levity to this podcast, to be honest, and I cannot wait to get rid of him.
Wow. Well, it's tense. It's probably the biggest rivalry of the first round matches here. But let's not forget why we're here. We're here to talk about 1999 WWE. The Monday Night War is well between WWE and WCW. We're going to April 1999. You need to use the rosters from there. The pay-per-view event is called Warzone, and it must have at least one women's match on the card, and Vince McMahon must compete. That's your only stipulations. Jack, I'm going to come to you here. What is your knowledge about 1999 wrestling, WWE versus WCW, and were you excited when you heard the mandate for today?
I know very little, and I was absolutely shitting myself when I was given this stipulation for the show. I won't tell no lie. I was very vocal about it on the chat there. I was like, oh, it's playing right into Ross McLeod's hands, but I couldn't let that happen. I took the time to research as much as possible. At least put it together the best card I can, have it flow and make some sort of sense. So I feel happy with what I've done, and that's the best I can give it. I don't think Ross McLeod's put much effort into this anyway, so it's all right.
That's all you can do, Ross. Obviously, you host a podcast, Ross Retro Reviews. You had some amazing and beautiful, talented guests on that show. It covered a lot of this period. What are your memories of that, and do you think that you have the strength of sort of living it?
Well, Retro Reviews starting from January 2000, so it's almost 8 months after this roster. Nice. And also, when I started watching originally, it was late 2000.
Right.
So this is an era I went back and watched. There's still certain things. Scott, when he does Rogue Opinions, he does SmackDown and Raw 1999. So occasionally, if I'm in my mother's and I see him there and he's watching it, there is some things that still take me by surprise. So I'm hoping, I'm looking at things going, oh, that'd be a dream match. But then you think back, like 1999, no, actually, that guy was in a bit of a state. So as much as Jack thinks it's playing into my hand, ready-made excuse, half my team were out with COVID and all that. I just want you to know that I might be a timeless cornerstone on this podcast, but I'm not old enough to remember 1999 as it happened, you know what I mean? So, look, we'll see how it goes. I mean, I was dreaming when I wrote this, forgive me if it goes astray. Let's just get it done, you know what I mean?
Let's get it done. Let's book it, people. We're ready to go. The order's decided. Very simply, I have the numbers 1 and 2 corresponding to that. I have first or second next to one of those numbers. Ross, if you could please pick number 1 or 2.
1.
Ross, It's flip reversed. You will be going second, which means Jack pitching first here. If there's no further questions, I will mute my mic. Ross will do the same, and Jack, you will have 10 minutes. Are you ready?
Aye, why not? Let's
Jack,
go.
Graham, your time to book it starts now.
Welcome to what is my WWE versus WCW Warzone card. The commentators for the show are JR and Tony Schiavone, and the show music for this is Backstreet Boys Larger Than Life. Can you just imagine the intro begin with? You've got bow, 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 now, bow, now, now, now. Amazing. I absolutely love it. Fireworks. Pew, pew, pew. I can't keep on talking about the music. I need to get on with the actual show. But we're going to start with a high-intensity match to begin with. The Hardy Boys versus Dudley Boys versus Edge and Christian versus Harlem Heat in a TLC match. The first of the stipulations put in straight away. This will go for about 20 minutes, in which we will see the Dudley Boys win. They'll hit a 3D off the top of the ladder through two tables that are stacked upon onto Harlem Heat and get the pin. Pretty, lively, exciting match to get on with. Gets the crowd going, expecting a very good night of wrestling ahead. And from that, we go straight into our first backstage segment. This may spoil a match that will come later on, but I might not spoil the opponent just yet.
Jack, just to interrupt, mind and give your match times as well, so I can get the match time for that one.
I think I said 20 minutes.
Sorry, man. Sorry.
I don't know, but it's 20 minutes anyway. The first backstage segment, we're going to have Vince scurrying about because obviously he's been booked in for a match later on in the show, and it's a match that he doesn't really want to do. It's something that he's not a fan of, considering who he's going up against. So he's trying to find any possible escape to get out of this. So he's going around just anyone throughout the backstage, offering them wads of money here and there, like, take this, just take my place, and the match will be fine going on. Can't get anyone at all, and even the APA turn him down, resulting in that typical damn moment, Ron Simmons is just what you want. Is another funny bit, but we move on to match 2, and it is the women's match of the night where we've got Medusa versus China. I a bit of a struggle with this one. I felt with the women's match. The WCW women's roster is a bit lackluster, but this only goes for about 10 minutes, and we're going to find a pretty dominant win for China here. We're going to have X-Pac get involved, the Degeneration X affiliation, and cause some shenanigans. Not that the shenanigans was needed, but it's just what DX does, they just help their own, do what they can. China gets a win, X-Pac celebrating whilst they're walking back up the ramp. It is what it is, you can't expect much more. When you put a stipulation on us for a women's match, and I tell you, it was bloody difficult, so I can't really go into much further than that. We go on to my third match of the evening, and it's a second stipulation match of the show. It's a no DQ match between Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero. This will go for about 20 minutes. This is a back and forth, a rather passionate match. They're taunting each other. They're doing their oh la la type thing. You know what I mean? The finish of this match sees Rey Mysterio hitting the 619 into a frog splash, which is also Eddie's finisher. But Eddie will have a steel chair held like that and will be splashed onto the chair and get the 1-2-3 win for Mysterio. This is something that's just obviously, I'm not expecting too much excitement from the match before, so this could be something that gets them back up again, And from that point forward, they go into our second backstage segment, and Vince is still scrambling about the locker room. He's trying his best to avoid this match is coming up, to which it gets revealed that the match is going to be Vince McMahon against Ric Flair. But we have him going through the back, and he turns his sights to one last pair. He finds Triple H and Shawn Michaels in the backstage. Obviously, a bit of a story history between them, but he's like, look, doesn't matter what's happening here. This is WWE versus WCW. We cannot lose. I will give you all this money and make this a 2-on-1 handicap match. Shawn and Triple H look at each other and look at the bag of money and are like, you know what? Fine, we'll take it. We'll do it. Vince runs away. He's all happy. He's doing his thing. And he's like, you know what? I'll come and watch Ric Flair lose. But when Vince exits the screen, DX look at each other, look at the camera, and give a cheeky old wink, like, you know what I mean? And they carry on. So at this point, Ric Flair starts to make his entrance out. This is going to be about a 20-minute match, but there's a lot of shenanigans that's happening here. Flair's coming out, he's doing his entrance, and you've got the DX entrance coming out afterwards, and they're standing in the ring, and you've got Vince will come down afterwards, and he's shouting the big and be like, oh, Flair, you've got no chance, blah, 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 you've got two of our best here. Then at that point, Triple H and Shawn Michaels look at each other again, look at Vince, give a wee kind of cheeky bye-bye, head to the commentator's desk, and are like, well, we never signed any contract. Vince just gave us some money, and that was all we know. So the match continues with Vince McMahon against Ric Flair with DX on commentary. The rest of the match pretty much just see Vince just kind of beg for forgiveness in a way to try and get DX involved, and Flair's just kind of slapping that bit silly. Then it gets to the point, the figure 4 leg lock gets put on Vince, and it's an easy win. Then DX come in, hit the sweet chin music, hit the pedigree. Everyone's laughing. It's all a joy for everyone. You know what I mean? It's what you want from wrestling. My third and final backstage segment of this show just looks at the different locker rooms, the contestants of the main event, which is going to be Goldberg and Stone Cold Steve Austin. Goldberg's just sitting, he's wrapping up his wrist, he's just doing a bit of that, getting ready for the show, and he goes to Stone Cold's locker and he's just sinking cans of beer just as he does, Then we the final 3 matches I've got here, the big ones, the ones that everybody wants to see. And the first we're going to have is The Rock against Hollywood Hulk Hogan in a 25-minute match here. So it's an absolute classic match that we know what happens after, but we can count this with a precursor to what comes before. The way I see this finishing is The Rock hits the rock bottom and gets everyone in the crowd electrified. He's the people's champ. He's a man of the people. He's doing all this. He's doing all that. Having a wee dance here and there. And he's getting ready to do the people's elbow. But then the rest, the NWO appear at the top of the entrance ramp and just start walking down, doing their thing, and then Hogan gets back up when this is happening because The Rock's a bit distracted and looks to kind of smack him from behind. But The Rock evades it and smacks the referee. At this point, the NWO come in and they just beat the shit out of The Rock pretty much, get weapons involved and smack him a bit silly. And then Hogan comes and hits his leg drop. The rest of the NWO get the referee back up. And it's a very slow 1, 2, 3. Hollywood Hogan wins against The Rock. But obviously, I had this in mind thinking that we know what happens at WrestleMania 18. We've got The Rock versus Hogan at that point. We know how that ends. So this could be a good precursor to how this starts. So I'm trying to make it all make sense. But this is the match that I'm most looking forward to, I think. Undertaker versus Sting in a Hell in a Cell match that goes 35 minutes. It's the match that got away pretty much, and it's the match that everyone kind of wants to see. It's the wrestling fans' dream match. And the finish sees Undertaker and Sting fighting at the top of the cage, with Sting having the upper hand for kind of the majority of the match, but hits the Scorpion Death Drop on the top of the cell and leaves that big, huge dent that goes into the top of the cell. But he can't muster to get a pin or anything straight away because it's just that the match is just, it's a hellacious, it's in the name, Hell in a Cell. He's very knackered. So he's just kind of still lying there, and just as he's about to get up, the Undertaker, he does his thing, boom, sits up, looks at him, rolls his eyes, and gives the old you're dead, pal. Bigs him up, choke slams him through the cell exposed all the way down. They're lying for a couple of minutes. Undertaker's about to go for the pin, but decides not to, brings him up, tombstone pile driver, 1, 2, 3, the Undertaker beats Sting. And obviously the main event, which I alluded to before, Goldberg versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. This is going to be about 20 minutes. And the finish of this, we'll see Goldberg hit the jackhammer on Stone Cold. It's a bit of a, not that it's a back and forward match, but the Goldberg's pretty dominant in this one as well. And he's not taking Stone Cold seriously. Also with the drinking before the match and all that, it's just like, it's just a bit of a joke. Stone Cold kicks out the jackhammer though, and Goldberg's a bit bewildered. Like, that's, who, you know what I mean? Exactly. So he's getting himself so wound up, he's getting ready for the spear, his trademark, so to speak. And then when the spear happens, Stone Cold turns that spear into a stunner. 1, 2, 3, ding, ding, ding. Fans go crazy. Beer's getting chucked about the ring. Everyone's falling in their arse. Everyone's getting drunk, having a good time. And that's the fun note to end my WWE versus WCW Warzone card.
Very good, Jack Graham. A very well put together card there, well presented, but your time for now is up, and we go to the other side. We go to Mr. Ross McLeod. So if you mute your mic, Ross, if you unmute, your 10 minutes to book Warzone WCW versus WWE in 1999 starts now.
So my show kicks off, and it's not Backstreet Boys, it's not bam, 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 it's not any of the 90s boy bands, it's not Backstreet, it's not NSYNC, it's not Boyz II Men. It's simple, a black opening card, Thunder, a shot of Titan Towers, a shot of WCW Towers. Freddie Blassie talking about the importance of this, narrating how champions will have to step forward. And at this point, we see in the promo WWF champion, The Rock, WCW champion, Goldberg, both stepping forward, holding their titles. Challengers will rise, and this is going to let you know what my 2 title matches are. The Rock will be defending his WWF title against Randy Macho Man Savage, and Goldberg will be defending his WCW title against peak 1999 Kane. And it says old rivalries will be renewed, and we see a clip of Stone Cold Steve Austin when he first got to WWF, when he was ranting and raving about how Bischoff fired him. We see the screw job happen as my main event, which will pit Vince McMahon in a match, a tag team match, Vince McMahon and Steve Austin versus Eric Bischoff and Bret the Hitman Hart. We're going strong right out the gate. Show kicks off, fireworks, all the big 90s, 90s pyro. A sea of signs, WCW, WWF. People have made their choice. And our opening match to get the crowd absolutely riled up, we're going to have a ladder match for both the Cruiserweight and Light Heavyweight title, as Taka Michinoku is going to take on Rey Mysterio Jr. Ladder match goes about 15 minutes. Taka Michinoku ends up getting the win after Rey Mysterio looks like he's about to win. The rest of Kai and Tai interfere, start grabbing at his legs. Rey manages to kick them off, but then out of nowhere, from the other side of the ladder, Michinoku with a Michinoku driver off the ladder, and then as he's helped back up to his feet by his Kai and Tai contingent, he gets to the top of the ladder and he gets both titles, and that makes it 1-0 WWF. We go backstage and we see The Rock, WWF title over his shoulder. Oh, sorry, I should mention, my commentary team for this is JR, Tony Schiavone, much like Jack's as well, because, there's no other commentary team you can really do at this point, because commentators went out the door at WWF and WCW so often at that point. The Rock references Randy Macho Man Savage's classic promo where he says, "The cream always rises to the top." And Rock says, "Well, I rose to the top because I'm the cream of this crop. My family are the cream of the crop." WWF is the place to be. And Macho Man Savage may have had a place in the 80s, but this is now the 90s. He is the people's champion. He is the WWF champion. And after tonight, that's not going to change. We then have a women's match, Medusa versus China. Much like Jack, I had a bit of a struggle putting this together because there was no women in WCW at this point, for however bad WWF was, with brand panties matches and 3-minute squash matches, at least they were there. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think the Nitro Girls were a thing at this point. Originally, my inspiration was going to be China versus the Nitro Girls in a handicap match, where the Nitro Girls basically made fun of like China's figure and all your two-manish, that sort of 90s feud you would have. And China would just ragdoll them. But Medusa comes to the ring with the title she threw in the garbage when she defected from WWF to WCW. She tries to taunt China. China's never been women's champion at this point. This match goes all of 5 minutes. Medusa kicks the match off. She tries to punch China in the face. China looks at her like, just shakes the head and absolutely ragdolls Medusa for 5 straight minutes, and that's it. That's us done. It's 2-0 to WWF. We cut backstage. Owen Hart is backstage. He's getting a promo, cutting a promo on his upcoming match, which I won't spoil just yet. He's talking about how it doesn't matter if they're WWF or WCW. He's underrated. He's been overlooked since he got into WWF, and he's glad that he's finally able to step out the shadow of his family. And this is the point where Owen turns to walk to the ring and is met by his brother Brett. They come face to face and they just look at each other and just say, good luck, and end it at that. And then Owen makes his way to the ring. Owen's going to have a 20-minute classic, a straight-up singles match against Eddie Guerrero. We're going to have Owen Hart, Eddie Guerrero. This is something, when I was looking at the rosters, I'm like, that could have been such a dream match. But unfortunately, Owen passed away in 99. Eddie arrived early 2000. It was a match we never got to see. I think this, in 1999, Eddie Guerrero against Owen Hart, who was absolutely timeless no matter what the decade, I think could have been absolutely superb. Eddie Guerrero manages to get the win in this one, pulling a wee point back for WCW to make it 2-1 to the WWF. We then cut backstage to see Goldberg and Kane scrapping backstage. The match has already started. Kane is grabbing Goldberg by the throat. Goldberg's laughing in his face. He's trying to lift Kane. Kane just feels nothing. He sandbags him. They're torn apart and told, get to the ring now. And as they're torn apart and told, get to the ring, they immediately just start scrapping back with each other. The match comes down the ramp. There's a choke slam on the ramp. Then Kane tries to grab Goldberg's lifeless corpse, trying to drag it to the ring, only to be pushed aside and speared through the barricade. Once the match gets in the ring, it goes about 5 minutes, as most Goldberg matches should. Goldberg manages to retain his WCW title to make it 2-2, and WCW is back on a level footing. We then cut backstage to a Randy Savage promo. We have Randy Savage just talking about he's the macho man, he's the only macho man. There's already a people's champion called DDP. There was already a Rock, Don Morocco, but there's only one macho man. And doesn't matter if it's the 80s, the 90s, or the 2000s, Macho Man will always be better than anyone that's across the ring from him. We hear pomp and circumstance come as Randy Savage makes his way to the ring. We then hear the glorious theme song that I entered to earlier. As The Rock enters, the crowd goes wild, does his whole pose, billion cameras going off, something that's sorely lacking for WWE these days. Match goes 15 minutes. It's everything you want it to be. Just imagine a Rock Savage match. It's exactly that. Rock manages to retain to make the score 3-2 to WWF. Hold on a minute. I'm just going through my, would you call it, my matches so far. We then get to our 6th match, our semi-main event. We have the NWO, we have Hogan, Hall and Nash going up against D-Generation X's Triple H, Billy Gunn and Road Dogg. DX were going through a bit of a turmoil time at this point. So X-Pac is not in DX at this point. X-Pac used to be in the NWO. He's been told by Hall and Nash, he's been told by Triple H, pick a side. He can't pick a side, and because he is so impartial here, he's going to be our guest referee. He is going to be our guest referee, and as it's just a normal 20-minute 6-man tag match. Back and forward, good old Attitude Era. Eventually, X-Pac X-Factors Hogan. He counts the 1, 2, 3 as Triple H pins Hulk Hogan, and he explains after the match that WCW has too many old men, too many has-beens, and WWF is where it's at. He's made his choice. We then, our main event, post-Screwjob Bret Hart and Eric Bischoff against Stone Cold Steve Austin and Vince McMahon. 15 minutes back and forward. It looks like WWF is going to get the win. WWF is 4-2 up in the scores, so they've won the overall Warzone. But it's at this point, after X-Pac says that WCW has no new talent in it, that DX return to the ring and attack Stone Cold Steve Austin, helping Eric Bischoff pin Stone Cold Steve Austin, and they pull their tops off to reveal NWO. At this point, we cut to the rafters. We see Sting. Sting has watched this main event go down. He's horrified. He's fought WWE. He's fought NWO and WCW. He's came to WWF to oversee tonight. He's outraged that NWO's poison has spilled over to another company. He tries to take on NWO. They're beating him down. Triple H, Billy Gunn, Road Dogg, Hogan, Hall and Nash. This is NWO now. Eric Bischoff's given the orders. At this point, Bret's like, this isn't what it's about. They start to beat down Bret, and as Bret and Sting are getting beat down, the lights go out, the gong hits, and the Undertaker appears. The man respected across every promotion comes to the ring. He clears house. Bret, Sting, and Undertaker stand in the ring next to Vince McMahon. Eric Bischoff stands with the new United DX NWO. And this leaves it open-ended. We've seen WWF might have won Warzone by 4-2, but we have NWO DX, we have Bret, Sting, and Undertaker all on the same side. This isn't about companies anymore, and it leaves it open-ended for another Warzone should we have to do another Book It tournament.
Wow. Two very, very, very exciting shows. Listening to those pitches there was phenomenal. The first thing to note, unfortunately, Ross, you did go nearly 2 minutes over, so you will incur the penalty point for that. Okay? Over the 10. That's just the way it works. Now, I actually have my opinions on this, and there's a couple of things that I really like from both of you. JR and Tony was the only commentary choice to make. I think that was smart from both of you. Jack, I loved Larger Than Life, the Backstreet Boys. I thought that was great. I love that song. And Ross, I also liked your take on it as well. The intense narration, bigging up like the epic battle that's about to go ahead. Obviously, similar women's match was the way I expected both of you to go there. I'm going to put it to you with this one, because there was the utilisation of someone that was pretty different on both shows, and that was Undertaker. Ross, you had the decision not to have Undertaker compete in an actual match. Can you justify that, and why is your inclusion of Undertaker better than a Taker Sting Hell in a Cell?
I think a Taker Sting Hell in a Cell I would watch all day, not current Taker Sting, good God, no. I would watch all day long. I don't know, I felt Taker and Sting was an obvious choice, but I knew looking at the women's division in WCW that me and Jack were both going to be Medusa versus China. I thought we were going to both be JR and Tony Schiavone, or Schiavone, or whatever the hell his name is. And I thought, well, if I'm going to do the turn, if I'm going to have DX jump ship and join WCW, well, I can't just have Sting going up against WCW again. I can't just have, a rehash of stories that have already happened, because that's what killed it for WCW. And when Sting's taken out the picture, and I wanted to leave it open-ended so I could do another one, when Sting's not in the picture, there's no one in 1999 WCW I really want to see Undertaker face. I already did. I'm doing Kane Goldberg, so that takes Goldberg off the table. I'm doing Rock Savage, that takes him off the table. Rey Mysterio, Undertaker 99 wouldn't have been a thing. The NWO, you know, he fought Hogan, he fought Hall, he fought Nash, and, you know, from 1990 to 1995. So once you take Sting off the table, there's not really a dream match out there for anyone that I was going to use on the card.
Fair.
So I just kind of thought, you know what? If we're going to leave it open-ended, I'm going to need strong personalities to go up against the NWO/DX. Why not have Brett, Undertaker, and Sting?
I like that. And Jack, my question for you is, there's the utilisation of Vince McMahon. Now, I do like the through line you had throughout the show. You're making use of the McMahon family drama. This was key during the Attitude Era. They would lead the stories throughout it. You had Vince versus Flair. From an in-ring perspective, do you think the best way to go was a one-on-one Vince match as opposed to the tag team match from Ross, which might be able to hide his limitations?
I think, obviously, in that sense, the tag team match is probably better, but I think the way that maybe my portrayal of Vince McMahon throughout it kind of overlooks the limitations of the match, because it's kind of tell the story throughout the show, and I had that involvement of DX there to kind of help play alongside, so there isn't just Flair and Vince for the fans to get invested in. You had that added attraction of DX who were on commentary, and also they were helping the fans back in what Vince would have been doing through the match as well. They, as I said, he's still trying to get DX on side during that, so there was a lot of story narration throughout that match that would have covered up his in-ring limitations.
I like that. Now, guys, I actually don't have any other questions because you have given me two cards that I think I can compare pretty well and make my decision based off of it. Here's what I'm going to do. Ross, you're already one down from the time limit going over. You go two down, as I believe that the four-way TLC match is unreal. Jack, you get a point off of me for that match. That is insane. But Ross, you go back to one down because NWO versus DX with X-Pac as the referee, the story that you built for that was tremendous.
Could I ask the question, though?
Yeah?
Regarding the TLC match, the Dudleys didn't sign with WWF till August 1999.
Oh.
You see, I thought the way that it was, the way I read if I get marked down on this, it's fair enough. My interpretation was, I thought it was from the roster from April 1999 onwards. I didn't know it was exactly.
It was the roster of April 1999.
Right, I'll take that in the chin, then you can mark me down on that if you want.
I need to take away the point. And this is what happens. This is the battle aspect of Book It, guys. Ross McLeod is taking a point off of Jack Graham with that find there. The fact check. It's levelled up after NWO versus DX with X-Pac as referee. Medusa versus China, too similar for me to make a decision on. Mysterio versus Guerrero, no DQ, and Michinoku versus Mysterio and the ladder. They're both excellent matches. They don't separate you either, because those would be absolutely fantastic. I've actually compared the Flair versus Vince match, which had a good story, but Ross has a Matt classic, which I feel you're missing, Jack, and that's Owen versus Eddie. So I've actually put him up for that.
Okay.
I can't separate you again. Rock Hogan or Rock Savage is utterly unreal. That is insane. I love both of them. They'd be so great. Seeing Rock Hogan and Jack, I like how you related it. You didn't ignore the fact that it was going to happen later on. You said, no, this actually helps it, because then, Rock actually is more significant when Rock wins later on, which is great. I was actually questioning Ross. Randy Savage, he really compared to he once was, but you're right. The building promos alone from these two would make it worth it. So again, it's tight as it can be. Ross still one up. Jack levels it back. Taker versus Sting, Hell in a Cell. Some say obvious shout. I say necessary shout. Goldberg versus Kane. I give you a point as well, Ross, because it's a short match as you laid out. Right? It's shenanigans. It's what made this era great. The backstage fighting, Goldberg short match against a monster and Kane. It's perfect. So again, it comes down to the main events. And I believe that one main event would underperform in ring, while another captures what this time was all about and the wackiness of it. And unfortunately, as tight as it can be, Ross McLeod does take this episode of Book It. He does get the win here, but a fantastic effort from both of you. Jack, how do you feel about that result? I'll try to lay it out as best I can, the judging of that. How are you feeling?
It's as fair as it can be, and we both went pretty different routes with how we're booking the card. I feel obviously I didn't have any title matches involved in mine, whereas Ross had that element as well. I was doing it as if it was like a Survivor Series booking type thing, and maybe that hindered it and not having the kind of caliber of stuff. But it's just how we both interpreted the show, isn't it? It's just what it is, I guess.
It's so, like I said, it's so close. I didn't actually take that into consideration, like the title thing, because the way I see it, these matches had the high stakes anyway. So I tried to make that a non-factor. But Ross, a tough battle between yourself and Jack Graham there. How did you feel about your performance today?
Well, I was a wee bit worried when Jack went first, that because, as you said, obvious. Some say obvious, I say necessary. It was left out to sort of distinguish the cards. But then when he went Undertaker Sting, I went, right, he's went for it, and then he went Hell in a Cell, and my backside collapsed. I was like, the show was really good up until that point, and then I was like, oh Christ, he's got a Hell in a Cell. Oh no. I think, sorry, just the alarm across the road's gone off, broke into. Did you mind? Robert at one time. Sorry. Yeah, I think Jack put up a great fight. I think his card was amazing. It's came to both two amazing cards, and I've just edged it. So, yeah, tough battle.
It is a tough battle, and you go on to face David Hockney, Ross. The man, you've been doing this podcast for a long time. Dave's been doing this podcast for a long time. You're no stranger to each other. You know exactly what to expect from each other, and it's going to be a similar battle to him versus Ryan Gallagher. It's the man who did the homework 12 weeks in advance versus the guy who copies the homework on the day. Are you going to prepare slightly differently for Hockney, do you think?
It depends if you book this again after a Rangers game, because if you do it again, I'm damn right refusing to do it. I'm absolutely in bits here. I'm just holding it together ever so slightly.
Fair enough.
The yellow top is just to give me a bit of colour in my face, because I am absolutely drained from yesterday.
I do need to say that it was very impressive, and Jack, you will be back in the Book It tournament. Like when we do the next one, that's without a shadow of a doubt.
Oh, yeah.
A great effort here, a fantastic effort, and it's been close first round matches. But there we have it. On one side of the bracket, it is Ross McLeod versus Dave Hockney in the semi-finals. But who will face Strack? You'll find out next time. Stephen Wilson versus Grant McRobbie. They'll be booking Evolution too. But from us at Book It, it's time to say goodbye. I will see you guys then.